South Hills. Hey. Everybody's been like texting me Happy Father's Day, and I'm like, what am I getting? What am I getting? I say, exactly. All blank stares. Good morning to our online guests. Thank you so much for joining us. We are in the middle of a series, South Hills. We are in the I Am series as we're going through the study of John. But of course, the most important question is, where is Moses? Where's our pastor Moses? He's our senior pastor here, and we found him. I remember 2 weeks ago when I was up here, I was like, hey man, I don't know. Jill, his wife, kidnapped him. We're trying to figure out where he is. And I did find him. Like on Friday, I called him up. Hey man, it don't look good, man. People are wondering if you quit the church or something. And he goes, yeah, I'm in Kansas City. I'm like, oh, Kansas City, you're watching the World Cup with Messi? He goes, yeah, I saw that game. And then I said, hey, can you just send us a video? And I realized he's not in Kansas City anymore. He's in Nebraska. Apparently their kids have travel baseball, and they're doing a lot of stuff out there. But I said, man, just send us a video. Just send us a ransom video. Let us know you're alive so that the church will be at ease. And so if you're visiting us and you're looking for our senior pastor, Moses, he wants to say hello. So let's take a look at hello to Moses and his son, Ezra. Let's play this video.
Hey, South Hills. This is Moses Camacho. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the senior pastor of South Hills Church. I am here at the Charles Schwab Stadium in Omaha, Nebraska with my boy. Who are you?
Ezra Camacho.
You have anything to say to these guys today?
Happy Father's Day.
That's right. Happy Father's Day. We are going to the College World Series. Baseball is one of my boys' favorite things to do, and he's never been to a College World Series, and I've never been to a College World Series. So as a dad, I made the sacrifice to bring him out and let him fulfill one of his dreams. My hope is that you guys are having an amazing Sunday. I know Pastor Kevin's going to be sharing God's Word with you guys today. Miss you guys. Looking forward to being with you next week. If you are a guest, please come back next week. But I promise you, you are in good hands. Our South Hills Costa Mesa team is top-notch. They're going to make sure that you feel loved, you feel welcome, you feel wanted, making sure that you hear God's Word and that you can have an opportunity to draw closer to God today. So God bless you guys. Happy Father's Day, dads. Miss you guys. Can't wait to see you guys next week.
Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, and all the love for Pastor Moses. Yes, he's back. He'll be back next week, so just hang tight. He's fine. Let's hopefully all three kids will come back too. Hey, so over the past few weeks, we've been walking through the Gospel of John through the Jesus statements where he says, I am. Right? And it's been fun. We've never got to see all the I am statements all stacked up together. And so up on the screen, if you just joined us, I just wanted to recap and just catch you up. And these are those moments where Jesus makes these declarative statements, and you're like, well, what's so hard, right? I am is such an easy thing. I say it all the day, every day. I am Kevin, and I am this, I am that. But to the Jewish nation at that time, I am was a declarative statement of saying I am God, right? Literally saying I am God. And so this is not only that Jesus is revealing himself, right? He's not just saying, hey, haha, I'm here. He's actually showing us how he wants to relate to us. How he wants to relate to us today and at that time. And so week one, you see that mountain here? It's I am statement of I am he. I am God. He declared that to the woman at the well in John chapter 4. So if you're following in the Bible, John chapter 4, he says, I am he. And then last week, Pastor James came by and he was preaching about John chapter 6, so 2 chapters later, Jesus at the feeding of the 5,000, and you see the bread there, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Meaning not only physical needs, but I am here for your spiritual and your emotional needs. I am completely here for you because in the wilderness, the people had to wake up every day to go get bread. But here he says, you don't have to wake up every day. I am always with you. I am the bread of life. And now we are in the third picture. I am, anybody want to guess what that thing is? The third one, I am the light of the world. So it's a nice little light bulb there. And so today we're going to study in John chapter 8. We're moving on 2 chapters, and he says, I am the light of the world. Just as God was the pillar of fire that led the Israelites out, and we're going to study that, led them out of Egypt and into the wilderness and into the promised land, the pillar of fire, the presence of God, was leading them the whole way, guiding them. And so just as God has guided Israel through the wilderness, he can be our guide too. And Jesus here at this point says, you don't have to navigate life by yourself. but you can navigate with me, and you can follow me, and I will be your light. Okay, so we're going to get into that, and that is the recap there. And so if you have your Bibles, just open up to John chapter 8. Just kind of sit there for a little bit. We're going to float in there for a bit there, but here's the key here. Many of us in life, I mean, I'm talking about believers, unbelievers, people who know Jesus or not Jesus. It doesn't really matter what religious orientation. We all want a map of our future. Right? We all want a map. Some of us love to look at horoscopes or mythology or Chinese menus of like, what zodiac am I, right? Or cards or whatever it is. At every turn, every decision, every answer, we just want it laid out right in front of us. That's so normal. But Jesus offers something even better. He goes, you know what? You don't need a map. He offers himself. For the Christian life, it isn't primarily knowing all about the answers. Right? We always want all the answers, but the Christian life isn't about knowing all the answers. It's about staying close to the one who does know the answers. Do you see the difference there? It's not about a map, but it's about being dependent on the person who actually knows all the answers. And so when Jesus simply points out that he is the light, he's declaring that I am the one that has the answers. And because the closer we stay to Jesus, the clearer everything becomes. All right? And so I just want to put that perspective in your head right now as you're walking through life. Is it something fuzzy in a decision you're about to make? Is there a point, an inflection point in your life right now that maybe you're like trying to figure out, okay, what do we do next? Maybe a relationship, maybe a career choice, or maybe a decision about a house or a location. It doesn't matter. But at this point, you're like, what is the answer? Making sense? All right. So by the time we reach chapter 8, here's where we're at. I'm going to set up the story here. So Jerusalem, in John chapter 8, Jerusalem is buzzing. It's the main city of Israel, and it's happening. It's buzzing. Lots of people are gathering. You're like, why are they gathering? People, a few things are happening right now, and I'm going to kind of like our July 4th. Everything's just happening right now. World Cup, July 4th, something is buzzing in America. So in the same sense, something is buzzing in Jerusalem. First, people have heard about this Jesus guy. All right, did you hear 2 chapters ago that Jesus just fed 5,000 and all the people were fed? Something's happening. He's healing people. This dude that's just talking like he's God, and something is happening. And so they have seen his miracles, and everyone seems to have an opinion about Jesus. No difference today. Everybody's got an opinion about God. Some believe he's the Messiah, the chosen one. So you will hear pockets of that in the Bible as you're reading through it. Some will think he's like a teacher, another prophet like Moses or Jeremiah. Some are just curious. I want to know what he's going to do now, what magic trick he's going to pop out. Some are confused. Wait, he says he's going to make my life different, but I'm not feeling it right now. Some are offended. I cannot believe he just said that he's God. Who is he to say that? And some are already looking for a way to kill him, because in the Bible you'll see that people are now starting to stack up enemies against him, and they just want to go. But at the end of the day, everybody in this room and in that room wants to know, who is this man? Who is this Jesus? In the middle of all this speculation, and here in chapter 8, you're going to find out that Jesus declares publicly. Before this, he didn't declare publicly. He was just kind of like with one person and a few people, but now he is going to declare publicly, I am the light of the world. So if you're with me, before we get into all these statements, the Bible shows the context of which Jesus was saying this provocative statement. So we want to know the who, the what, and the when. And so I want to do this for us right now. I have some scriptures on the verse on the screen. I want to read through it so you get to see where I'm at. And then as we read through it, feel free to, you could do this in the small groups later on, study it in detail. So let me just start off with John chapter 7, verses 1 through 3. So 1 through 3. So after the feeding of the 5,000, it says this. After this, Jesus went around in Galilee. He did not want to go about in Judea, which is the south side of the country, because the Jewish leaders were there looking for a way to kill him. But when the Jewish festival of Tabernacle was near, so circle that, highlight that, we're going to talk about that. When the Jewish festival of Tabernacles was near, Jesus' brother said to him, let's leave Galilee, the north, and go to the south, Judea, so that your disciples there may see the works you do. All right, so just pause there. They're hanging up in the north side. They're like, wait, it's time. The big festival is coming. Let's go to D.C. in essence, right? Let's go to the main part of town on this big festival. Okay, the Feast of Tabernacles, I'm going to come back to that. Then let's go to what happened. So now Jesus is at the temple, and the next slide here is, now we get into chapter 8. In chapter 8, verse 12, it says this: when Jesus spoke again to the people, so he's now at the temple, the big church, everybody there at the festival, he says this: when Jesus spoke again to the people, he said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. The Pharisees challenged him. Here you are, appearing as your own witness. Your testimony is not valid. Again, there's some naysayers there. And you're like, well, what's the point? Jesus just got up. He just posted on social media that he's the light of the world. So what? Leave him alone. I'll come back to that context because the context really matters. Now, at the end of the chapter is going to be the where it happened. So let's, next slide. Then they asked him, where's your father? You do not know me or my father, Jesus replied. If you knew me, you would know my father also. Now here's verse 20. This is important. He spoke these words while teaching in the temple courts. Circle that, highlight that, take a picture of that. Near the place where the offerings were put, yet no one sees him because his hour had not yet come. All right, I just went through 6 verses and you're like, wait, we need a history lesson. So I'm going to give you a quick history lesson because when we come back to when Jesus says, I am the light of the world, it's going to really matter. First, the Festival of Tabernacles was one of the most important holidays in Israel history. The Feast of Tabernacles celebrated the 40-year journey in the wilderness. So at that time, every year for a thousand years, at this point in time, Jewish people would get together, go to Jerusalem, and celebrate the reason why they escaped Egypt, went to the 40 years. This is their iconic history moment. So let me just give you a perspective. You're like, who cares? Well, in American history, this year is the 250th anniversary of our nation's birthday. Is that right? Yep. And every person in America, college, high school, middle school, we study this. Every time the World Cup plays and they play the national anthem, we sing it. And so for us as Americans, we hold dear to this story. Is that, you follow? You hold dear to it, you understand it, you see the red, white, and blue, you feel patriotic, you know what to do on July 4th, you know to stay away from Disneyland, you know that it's just going to be happening. Is that right? Okay, so the Feast of Tabernacle is that for them. This was their story. This is their historic, iconic story. And so this is why this is important now. Jesus is at the epicenter of a patriotic national festival. Okay? And how did we get here? How do they know where to go at this point? Well, the Old Testament tells us that when the Israelites were leaving Egypt, it was important that they didn't know where to go. They didn't have GPS. They didn't have a road map. There was no paved roads to get on the road. And so in the Bible, it tells us that God's presence led them out of Egypt into the promised land. And so up on the screen, Exodus 13, so going back to the Old Testament, it said this: by day, the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of a cloud to guide them on their way, and by night, in a pillar of fire to give them what, everybody? Light. So that they could travel by day or night. Neither the pillar of cloud or by day nor the pillar of fire by night left its place in front of the people. For 40 years, there was this presence of God, this pillar of fire, just helping them go to places where they did not know. They were lost in this abandoned place, and they were just hoping that the promised land was coming. Does that make it? Hopefully this is resonating, and so now you understand the picture that I want you to paint here is that at this moment, the people are gathered in Jerusalem celebrating about the wilderness story. And now I want you to imagine this. As night is falling, it's almost like at Disneyland. As the night falls, they start turning off the lights before the fireworks happen. You get what I'm saying? You have to dim the lights of the fireworks. You can see it and you hear the noise. Well, the same thing happens here. As night is falling, giant lamps are lit throughout the temple, the epicenter of Jerusalem. And in the temple courts was basically the lobby of the big church. And I'm going to show you this picture. Now, that's what's happening. So this is the temple of Jerusalem. So let's show a day shot. A day shot real quick. This is a day shot, all right? So you see this big, in the background, big temple. That's like the inner courts. And on the outside, you see these chandeliers. They resurrect these chandeliers. Now, in our days, we call them the big torchlights, right? You know, a soccer game. Well, they put them up here in the courtyard. And in that courtyard, right in the middle of that courtyard is where everything is happening because they're paying homage and they are celebrating here. And so at night, when it's dark, then we get the light shot. This is what the picture is. Jesus is now standing in the middle of the most hustling and bustling place on one of the most important days of Jewish history. And as they light these torches up, right, and everybody's looking like, oh, and ooh, and what? Jesus gets into the middle and he declares, I am the light of the world. These lights, they fade. After the fuel goes away, it goes away. But I am the light of the world. I am the God who is with you, who traveled with you for 40 years and 40 nights into the promised land. And you don't have a history without me, God. Is this making sense now, everybody? Yeah. That is why it is important, as you see the context, when Jesus says, I am the light of the world. So there is no hiding, there's no secret. But out in the open, Jesus says, I am the light of the world. And to us, that sounds inspirational, but to everyone there, it sounds shocking. Because light represented a few things. Up on the slide, this is what light meant to the Jewish nation. Light is a very important concept, all right? In the beginning, there was light, all right? So what did light mean? First, if you want to take notes, take pictures here, the presence, that God is with us. That when we see light, we are secure that he is with us. Number two, he's the guidance. He guides us. He leads us through the wilderness. The Lord is my shepherd. He leads me beside still waters. He leads me. And so guidance is a very important concept. So when you see light in the Jewish nation, they're thinking that. And ultimately, the final part is Jewish nation. When they think of light, it meant salvation. That God rescued us from 400 years of slavery in Egypt. From the pits, he brought us out and he rescued us. So presence, guidance, salvation. So Jesus isn't saying this. Oh, I have light. I found the light. Are you looking for the light? No. Jesus is not saying that. Jesus is definitively saying, I am the light. The God who guided Israel, the God who rescued Israel, the God who dwelt with Israel. Jesus was claiming to be God who walked with Israel on that path. Again, church, we've been going through this whole cycle for the last 3 weeks. You know, did Jesus ever claim to be God? Did Jesus ever? Yes, clearly. Clearly, he is saying, I am. He is taking one of the most important aspects of Jewish culture, the light, and he says, that's temporary. I am the light. And here's what makes this relevant to us. The people in Jesus' day weren't the only ones looking for light. The Jewish people weren't the only ones looking for light. If you want to fast forward 2,000 years later, we're all looking for light. Every single one of us is following something. And that brings us to our next question. Why do we need the light? You know, so you're like, all right, cool, Kevin. Jewish people love the light. Well, all of us in this room, we need light too. And the question is, why do we need light? Because we all need direction. We all need guidance. We all need a Savior. And the need hasn't changed over these 2,000 years. We're all trying to answer questions like this. What should I do next? Am I making the right choices? What school should I attend? Should I make this my home church? Should I take this job? Should I retire? These are questions that perplex all of us, that keeps us up at night. And we all want guidance. The need for guidance is universal. And so up on the slide, verse 6, who are we following today? You see, this is at this point in time, when you say, what's the point about the light? Well, these are all the little lights that are distracting us. These are the blinking lights. If you look at it, parents, friends, teachers, news, YouTube, fear, comfort, political values, influencers, public opinion, aren't these the blinking lights in your life right now? Aren't these the blinking lights you're looking for answers? Some kind of feed that just pops up, tells you what to do. In fact, let me just give you a funny one. Influencers, it really means that. I just learned this term. I know I just learned it. But it was always in my life, but I didn't know it was called the term influencers, right? So influencers are those people on social media. They tell you to buy, click, do this. Oh, because, I wear this hat, you should buy it too. You get what I'm saying, right? So it's one of those things that I did one time. I clicked, it's like a mindless animal. I was just death scrolling, and I don't know, the ad just told me to click. This person, not the ad. There was no ad. It was a person telling me, buy these razor blades. True story. Buy these razor blades. You can ask Hannah. So before I knew it, I purchased 100 razor blades. I only needed one. I only needed one razor blade. So I have 100 to share with you. Ask Hannah. She knows exactly where they are. I have 100 razor blades because the blinking lights told me to do it. You have done it too. Don't lie. So everybody has a North Star. Everybody's got a North Star. Everyone's following something. Everyone trusts something, someone. Everyone has a source they look to for direction. Now, here's the real problem. Nothing on this list is like that bad. It's just a list of blinking lights. But the real problem isn't that we lack voices. We don't lack voices. The problem is that we have too many voices. Never in human history have we had more access to information, more experts, more opinions, more advice, more content. Everybody's got something to say. Everyone's got a recommendation. Everybody claims to know the way. And the deeper problem? The problem isn't darkness. This isn't like these are evil thoughts out there. Maybe some of them are evil, right? But the problem is the false lights, the distracting lights. Not every light leads us home. Not every voice deserves your trust. Not every guide knows where they're going. So let me ask you again, what is your North Star? What is the light you depend on to guide you home? When life gets uncertain, when you're faced with a major decision, what voice gets that final say? What shapes your thinking? What are you ultimately trusting? So like 2,000 years ago, these Jewish people, they were looking for the light. We are looking for the light too. And what is that light? And so this is where Jesus enters that conversation. This human problem that we have of looking for blinking lights all the time. And because Jesus doesn't simply offer another opinion. He doesn't offer another podcast. He doesn't offer another self-help strategy. He doesn't offer another light among many lights. He's offering me. I am the light. You don't need to shop at other lights. And so when we first, so I want to give you an analogy here, and this is a story that I want to share with you. And up on the screen, take a look at this. When I first moved to Southern California, we realized that this thing was in our backyard. What is this thing on three? 1, 2, 3? Disneyland. All right, a proud Disneyland. Now, this is DCA. I'm so sorry. Disney California Adventure. But for all those people who lived in Texas and Miami, that's Disneyland. All right. So I remember I couldn't understand this obsession with Disneyland. Hannah and I were like, we hate lines. I mean, everything about Disneyland triggers my anger. I mean, does it trigger you? Oh, here it is. The ultimate irritation. I hate lines. I hate waiting. I hate the sun baking on my face and burning me. It just all three added up just makes me angry. All right? No kidding. All right? So, I mean, I'm sure you felt the same way. And we just didn't understand how people, every summer when we lived here, I would have friends on Facebook would just ping me up and hey man, we haven't talked to each other in 20 years, but we're coming to SoCal and can we stay with you? Friends out of the blue because we're 15 minutes away from Disneyland. So we just didn't understand how people would spend thousands of dollars and they would come every day and they wake up before sunrise, they rope drop, they study maps, they check wait times, they book lightning lanes and add more money to mobile ordering. It's just, all of that is just nonsense to me. And guess what? They go from 8 a.m. to midnight, and they'll do it again tomorrow, and again tomorrow, and then by this time, the kids are meltdown, and they're just dying. Do you get that? I don't know why. And so, honestly, I was exhausted just listening to all this early years with Hannah and I. This is before we had kids, people explaining me their strategy, and I was like, this is bonkers. And so, Hannah and I really didn't go to Disneyland for probably 15 years. Like we just did, I know, we just drove by it and we're on the highway 57 and you see the fireworks and we don't even say, wouldn't it be nice? We're just like, just keep driving. Just drive. It's just 15 years, right? And then she's laughing because it's true. She's laughing because it's true. Then everything changed. Everything changed. Are you okay? Someone, water for the pastor's wife. Just someone come here. All right. So everything changed because a church friend offered to take us one time. Because I was complaining. I was probably on stage preaching like this, and I was like, this sucks, right? Someone in the audience noticed us, and he said, hey, Kevin, let me show you the way. And we're like, what? Now, here's the cool part. They wanted to be the guide for us. And I don't know if you've ever been having one of those special guides, but they wanted to show us. Now, here's the cool thing. Not only they wanted to show us the way, they knew the tips and tricks, but they also knew what Hannah liked. Hannah loves parades, and Hannah loves the fireworks. Kevin loves thrill rides. And Hannah likes the little beignets, the donuts, the Mickey donuts. And Kevin likes the big turkey leg. They knew everything about us. And so they knew the hidden spots. They knew the shortcuts. They knew where to skip. They knew where to grab that turkey leg before you get into that line so you can eat the turkey leg while in line. They knew everything. They knew where to stand, where to sit during the parade. They knew when to show up. And suddenly, I wasn't staring at my map anymore. I wasn't checking wait times every 5 minutes. I wasn't trying to figure out the perfect route. If I do this and I jump this, and the calculus was gone. I wasn't carrying the burden of navigation. I was simply following our friend, the guide. Now, if you wanted to, you could pay for that guide at Disneyland, I think. It's worth something. So something surprising happened to Hannah and I these last 5 years. We enjoy Disneyland more than ever. We notice the sights now. We enjoy the conversations. We laugh more. We argue less. We aren't glued to our phones like, hey, where do I go? What do I do? Oh, bump into someone. We don't do that anymore. We are actually present at the happiest place on earth. Why? Because we trusted the guide who knew us, the guide who knew where to go. I wasn't sitting there asking the guide, hey, what's next? I just trusted that the guide would get us to the next point. Are you following, church? Looking back, I realized something, that the guide wasn't valuable because they knew the park. The guide was valuable because they knew the park and they knew us. They knew where we were going. They knew what would bring Hannah and I joy. They knew the things that we couldn't see, and they perhaps, most importantly, they carried the burden of navigation so we could enjoy the journey. The burden of navigation was on them, and the burden of joy was on us. We got to enjoy the greatest place on earth. And as I was studying John chapter 8 this week, I couldn't help but think that that's what Jesus is offering when he says, I am the light of the world. He's not merely offering direction. He's offering himself. The light doesn't just know the destination, but the light knows the traveler, you and me, on the journey of life. And so up on the screen here, I want to tell you what the big idea is. If you want to take a shot here, just hopefully you'll remember this. Of all the things that you want to remember, here's what I want you to remember. Most of us want a map, but Jesus offers a guide. The goal of the Christian life isn't to know the map, it's to stay close to the guide. Stay close to the guide. If Jesus is the light then, and if Jesus is the guide, how do we actually stay close to him? Let me give you two simple practical takeaways as we just kind of wrap up our message here. And I want to give you these two takeaways to say, all right, I get it, Kevin. We want to enjoy Disneyland too. So how do we follow the light? There's 2 points here, and these are the quick ones so you can remember. First, I want you to stay close to the light. Stay close. Don't pretend that you're trying to get a map and get all the answers. And I get it. That's the control in all of us. The control in all of us is, I got to see the ending. Give me the point A, give me point Z. No. Just stay close to the light. One of my anchor verses in Hebrews 11, verse 8, it says this, by faith Abraham obeyed, even though he did not know where he was going. Hebrews 11:8 says, even Abraham did not know where he was going, but he trusted. And when God said go, he followed. He didn't ask for a 5-year plan. He didn't even know the destination, but he just trusted that God would be his guide. And I know that's uncomfortable for many of us because we want certainty. We want details. We want guarantees. We want to know exactly how the thing will work out before we take the first step. But faith has never been about having all the answers, friends. Faith is trusting that the guide, even when you don't know, trusting in the guide, even when you don't know the destination. That's the Christian faith. And maybe that's why some of us feel frustrated right now. We're asking God for a map, and he's offering his presence. Maybe we're frustrated because we're asking for certainty, and he's inviting us to trust him. Maybe Jesus never promised the future, but he promised himself. Jesus promised himself. The goal was never about certainty, but the goal was proximity. Stay close to the light. The second practice is follow the light you already have. Follow the light you already have. Kevin, what does that mean? One of the things I've learned over the years is that God rarely reveals the entire journey at once. What he does is he wants, instead of the whole roadmap, he just gives us one step at a time. One breadcrumb at a time. And I get it. That's frustrating, even for a person like me who wants full control of everything. And so that's where God had to teach me the last few years of my life. And so here's my last illustration for today. As I look back, I can see that God guided me through a series of little breadcrumbs, and I want to tell you about those breadcrumbs. And I was reminded of this because last night I was at a networking. Last week I was at a dinner function. It was a networking function, and someone noticed something about me. And I had, I'm just saying, hi, I'm Kevin. What's your name? And they said their name, and they noticed that as I was sharing my story, that they were like, man, you seem like you're having the greatest time of your life. What are you doing right now as your day job? And so as in my day job, I'm the head of people and culture, and so I help run an organization, and I help build and scale organizations. And they asked me, the real question was, how did you get to where you're getting? How did you get there? And of course, it made me think a little bit. You're at a loud, noisy function. You're like, it's like, I just smile, lucky. In my mind, lucky, right, was the answer. But then, as I was studying this passage this week, I was like, wait, it wasn't lucky. It was the little light beams that God was showing every step of the way. And I want to, if I could, and I'm thinking about calling this person up, I want to tell them this. So you get to be my guinea pigs because I want to tell them this. During the pandemic, I was in a season of life where I was desperately needing a career change. I think many of us have gone through that. In a pandemic, you start thinking things. You're like, should I do this? Should I not do this? But I had no clue where I was going. And so, because I had been doing what I was doing for the last 10 plus years. You're comfortable, you're doing it, you're like, should I make a change or not make a change? But no, it's just been doing that. And so I had no clue, but I just knew I had to make a change. And I remember my first phone call, breadcrumb number 1. My first phone call was to my mentor. I haven't talked to my mentor. He was my professor in grad school. I had not talked to him for maybe a few years now, but he was my first phone call because I had nowhere else to turn. And I just said, hey, I need some help. And what happened is, he says, Kevin, I'm so glad you called. And he goes, you know what, let's keep praying about it. Let's talk about it. And then we hung up, and he was encouraging, and that was it. And I moved on, and I started, updating my resume. And then about 4 hours later, he calls me back, breadcrumb number 2. He says, Kevin, guess what? I'm consulting for a company, and they have a $1 million grant with FEMA because they need to vaccinate all of Orange County. They need a project coordinator to coordinate 1,000 nurses to all the super pods. And if you remember 5 years ago, the blip, Remember how the fairgrounds was a super pod where you could vaccinate there, or Anaheim, or there were 5 super pods in Orange County that the government was funding to do shots. You would just drive. It was a drive up, take a shot, and get out. But we needed nurses to do that. At the time, you're like, who's doing this, right? And they needed a person to manage that. And I said, okay, that seems pretty easy. I can do that. And that was 4 hours later, breadcrumb number 2. And he goes, Kevin, I'd like you to help one of my clients take care of that. And I just trusted. I said, all right, let's figure this out. I don't know what to do. I've never been to the fairgrounds. And after a year later, there was success with it. You know, the pandemic moves on. But this company that asked me, they said, hey, you did a great job. Would you like to stay with us? We have a startup software company that we want to spin off, and we need someone to help us build out our sales and marketing team. And again, this is not in my wheelhouse. This is something I could do, probably, it's something fun to do. And again, I didn't have any answers. I didn't know where I was going still, folks. I was just doing life. Again, it's a spin-off company, what the heck, but you keep chugging along. And even though I was beating my head up at this time, I was like, God, is this all you really want me to do? Because what they're asking me to do is like probably 20% of my capacity. I could do way more than this. It's just 20%. God, there's something better than this, right? But you keep moving, and you keep asking God, even to the point where you say, don't you want me to do more, God? But you don't get the answer. And at this time, it didn't seem significant, but a conversation here, a mentor there, an unexpected opportunity here, an open door, a closed door. Many of you in the room probably understand exactly how I'm going through right now. And about 2.5 years later goes by, and my mentor asked me again at this point in time, hey, Kevin, I need you to do something else for me. And I said, all right. I'm kind of getting bored over here. Wherever he sent me to, it's like the pit here. He goes, I need you to do some leadership consulting for a rapidly growing company in Orange County. And that, yes, was the start of a perfect season of where I am today. My biggest prayer now is, God, this is the prayer that I have now, is God, can you just allow me to stay in the sweet spot for as long as I can? Please don't move me again. Just let me enjoy the sweetness of life. And if I could, back to that networking dinner, that's what I would want to say to this person who is struggling where they're at. I wish I could have said that instead of said I'm lucky. Because I'm not lucky. It's because God, the light, was guiding my step along the way, revealing those little breadcrumbs. And that's what I want for you, church, to see those breadcrumbs. Follow the light you already have. God is already speaking to you. Just open the eyes. I wonder if some of us are frustrated because God hasn't shown up the entire roadmap yet. I wonder if you are. But maybe he's already given you enough light for today. Just enough. Maybe he's already shown you the next conversation to have, the next step to obey to, the next opportunity to pursue, maybe the next relationship to invest in. Maybe he's already shown it to you. The question isn't whether God has given you all the answers. The question, my friends, is whether you're willing to follow the light he's already given us. Because often the next steps becomes visible only after we take the first step he gives in front of us. The next steps becomes more clear. So I want to leave you with this simple question. What light has God already given you that you are ignoring? Stay close to the light. Follow the light that you already see. That's what it looks like to walk by faith. And that is my encouragement to you today. I don't want you to be like the Jewish nation, waiting thousands of years, doing this festival over and over for a long period of time, and just wishing that God would show up when God had already shown up. And that is my prayer for you today. I'm going to ask the worship team to come on up as we close out. I want to pray this prayer for you, but it's a different prayer. This is called a pastoral challenge prayer. I'm going to challenge you through this prayer. And as I pray for you, I hope that you will take that challenge. Church, let's bow our heads and close our eyes. Let's pray. As we close, I ask God that you help our friends today. I want them to take this challenge this week. For some of us, the challenge maybe trusting God when we can't see the whole path. For others, it may be following the light He's already showing us. And for some of us, we just want to turn down some of that noisy voice, the noisy voices that have been competing for our attention all these years. Father of light, today on Father's Day, I want to pray and challenge the men and dads in this room. Men, fathers, there can be so much pressure to have all the answers, to know all the plan, to always have an answer to lead everyone else. Lord, will you remind the dads and the men in this room that we don't have to know the entire map? Will you help us model for our families what it looks like to follow you? May our children, our spouses, our friends, and coworkers see in us the faith that we trust in you, even when we don't know the destination. Help us. Help the dads and the men in this room to stay close to the light. And Lord, I want to pray for those who feel like they're wandering in the dark right now. They're wandering around. They're stubbing their toes in the darkness. They are just floundering around. Things are breaking all over the place. Their life is just feeling like it's an endless circle. Some are carrying burdens right now. Some are facing uncertainty. And some are just trying to make major decisions just to get by. Some have been praying and waiting for you to show them what's next. Lord, will you remind them today that you didn't say you were the light. You said, I am the light. The same God who guided his people through the wilderness is still guiding his people today. Would you give them enough light for their next step? Make it so everly clear and bright for their next step. Not necessarily showing the whole roadmap, but enough light for today, even enough hope for today, enough faith for today. And Lord, for all of us, help us to recognize the noisy, blinking lights competing for our attention. The voices, the distractions, the fears, the opinions, the things that pull our eyes away from you. Help us to stay close to your voice through your word, through your prayer, through spiritual friendships, through spiritual mentors, through the many people you've already placed around us. Lord, help us notice the light you've already given us, the conversations, the opportunities, the open doors, the people you bring into our lives, the next steps you're inviting us to take. Give us courage to follow the light we already see. Jesus, thank you for being the light of the world. And everybody said, amen. Amen. Hey, let's give God a big thanks for the light that he's given us.